We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of the Unblocking Chain podcast with one and only Patrick Collins. I was really looking forward to this podcast, and here we have Patrick. So, Patrick is a developer advocate at Chainlinks, and the rest of the introduction I'll leave it to Patrick. So, Patrick, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Hello. How's it going, everybody? Hope everybody's doing fantastic. Yeah, she said my name is Patrick Collins, and I'm a developer advocate on the Chainlink project. I live, breathe smart contracts. Absolutely love this space. Very technical. I make a lot of coding tutorials. I love bringing people in the Web3 space and teach people about all the amazing things that we do. So, and I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, same here, same here. I was only fearing that would I be able to match Patrick's energy and enthusiasm? But yeah, I have watched a lot of your videos and I was like, oh man, he is like he makes video to another level. But yeah.
just trying to get everybody as excited about myself as a space, but about this space. Uh,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being pretty chill right now, though. I'm not being zany, which is good. um,
Yeah, so Patrick, the very first thing that I wanted to ask you is like, how did your journey started in this Web3 space? How did like it was not really a thing from the very beginning, and people from software engineering, I checked your LinkedIn. I got to know that you did your CS degree back then, and you were a software engineer. So, at what point in time did you really felt like I should get into this Web3 space and started, learning and developing things?
yeah, so for me, it was definitely an interesting journey. So I worked at an asset manager for a couple of years, and I really wanted to get into that because I really wanted to learn like how money works and like what's up with big money because I didn't really understand like it was like this weird like I'm like how does money work, why do these hedge funds, why do these asset managers make so much money, like what is going on? So I wanted to learn exactly what was going on. And so there that's where I really developed most of my engineering chops, which was awesome. And then I left there. I started working at a data provider company, and at that point, up to that point, I had just done like some like trading bots. I was a big Python guy. I wrote some like silly like try to do like arbitrage basically. And I a group contacted me. They were like, "Hey, we want to put data on chain," and I was like, "Well, why in the world would you want to do that? That sounds ridiculous. Isn't blockchain just a weird virtual fake money thing?" And that's literally, I was like, "Why would you ever reach out to me? That sounds so stupid." That's literally was my reaction at the time. I thought blockchain was dumb. I thought cryptocurrencies were a big scam. And they were like, no, it's for this thing called smart contracts. And I was like, what the heck is that? And that's when I like really dove in, and I was like, oh my goodness, there are so many advantages here that
Yeah.
especially, the fintech space, the hedge fund space, the asset management space, there's so many solutions here that can fix all these problems, all these corruptions, all these things with that world. And I just got crazy excited, as the saying goes, fell down the rabbit hole, and I haven't looked back since. And yeah, it's just been amazing to jump in the space and build and learn and do all these crazy things and understand how much value is really to be had in this smart contract space. And that's why I really love, that's why I really love doing it. And that's why I love this space. And I feel like there's so many people, there's a lot of people who get really excited, but they have a hard time articulating why this space is so exciting.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to do, and that's something I'm hoping to do, is really like help people understand why this space is so exciting, and then build these things that can help us as a global collective, help us be better, be more accountable, be more transparent,
Mm.
while coming across a ton of economic opportunities along the way. So that's basically how I
Yeah.
got in the space.
Yeah. So, Patrick, when we were entering into this space, were you also fearing that it might all be a scam, and what if it comes down and I would be left with nothing? And why am I putting so much of my energy into something that's not really, a thing back then?
Yeah, well, right. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, literally, my first thought was like, nah, get that away from me. That sounds ridiculous. Yeah. But then that's when, like, I talked to a lot of people, obviously, because I'm a very talkative guy. Like, a lot of engineers just like go into the documentation. I can't do that, like, and that's why I make videos, because I need to watch videos. I need to talk to
Yeah.
people. I need to read articles and stuff. And so I talked to a ton of people, and I heard what people were saying, and I was trying to figure out what the narrative was. And then I started going into the code. Then I started developing the tools, and that's when I was just blown away by, everything the space does offer. So yeah, at the beginning I was like, get away from me, this sounds ridiculous. But then I got into it and I was like, give me more. Yes. How do we? Yes. So at the beginning, sure, but not now. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, how do we get this into as many hands as, as quickly as possible?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, a lot of people are getting into it just because there is a lot of money in the space, but they're not really realizing what is the main motive of having it in the first place. So, how would you, explain the importance of Web3 to someone?
Yeah, I've actually written some or made some videos or written some content on this because I think this is really important. I think we as a community do a very bad job of explaining it, right? I just saw like a couple of my developer advocate friends, they were like, hey, like, I don't really know how to describe Web3 to people. And I was like, holy shit, like
I
we should
remember
get
your tweet. I remember your tweet a
well,
few days back.
I understand, but like I think as a group, as a community, like especially like us, we're developer advocates. We need to have that like fundamental. Although you're at is what is it? Sell you? What's the name of the
Yeah,
group?
that's yeah, that's a Soleo. That's an app. I'm not really a developer advocate, but a Solidity developer there.
Oh, dope. They do smart contracts. Oh, hell yeah, excellent. Um, but yeah, like it's something that like as a yeah, even better. You're a dev and you're just doing podcasts. Hell yeah. Um, but yeah, it's something that we as a community need to do better at, right? Because if we can't even explain why we're here, how are we going to drive anybody to be excited about this space, right? So yeah,
Exactly.
so the way that I describe it is I'll usually just go super high level and I'll focus on one thing because blockchain has all these advantages. But if you start being like, blah, like collateralized lending, like flash loans, like DeFi, like NFT, like people are going to be like overwhelmed and, analysis
Yeah.
process and nothing's going to happen. So normally I like to focus on smart contracts and their ability to have trust minimized agreements, aka unbreakable promises. And I usually focus on the unbreakable promises bit because that's easier to digest than trust minimized agreements. Like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
So, unbreakable promises, when you create a smart contract, when you create an agreement on the blockchain, there is nothing that will stop it from doing exactly what you told it to do. There is nothing that will stop it from doing exactly what you told it to do. And to me, that gives us this ability to create unbreakable, unstoppable agreements. So if we make an agreement, if we made an agreement right now, hey, I bet you $10 it's going to rain tomorrow, and we code this up on the blockchain,
Yeah.
we can code it in a way that if it rains tomorrow, I'm going to pay you out, or you're going to pay me out, or whoever made the bet. It's going to happen. I
Yeah.
cannot break that promise. In the real world, we do not have those. We do not have those trust guarantees. We don't.
Yeah.
In the real world, I could say, hey, I'll pay you $10, and then I just, move to Canada, or I don't know, move to some random place and try to never see you again, right?
Yeah.
We don't. We have all these trust assumptions, and they've screwed us over royally. You look at like 2008 with the financial crisis, right? There's all this lying and shady shit going on behind closed doors. There's no transparency. They were saying these products are amazing when in
Yeah.
reality they were, these mortgage products were absolute garbage and they tanked the economy. You look at
Exactly.
just what was it last year? Robinhood was, hey, come use our platform. We promise we'll give you access to the markets. We promise this. And then push comes to shove. You say, hey, like, let's all buy GME. Robinhood goes, oh, well, we didn't expect you to do that. So now we're going to break our promise. We're going to revoke all that. You can't do that anymore. You can't trade on our platform anymore because it's not good for us. And that's
Yeah.
insanely frustrating. And now I'm ranting. And that's insanely frustrating, especially for financial products and because people's well-beings are on the line. People's livelihoods are on the line. The money that they have for their children, for their family. If a platform says, hey, come use us, and then they automatically sell your assets without you asking them to, it's just like
Yeah.
this huge disservice. And blockchain and smart contracts are a way to create accountability, create transparency into these unbreakable promises. And that is something that I think is so fundamentally mind baffling that we have the technology to do that. The sooner more people get in the space, the better. So
Yeah.
that's my rant. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that blockchains are good for and smart contracts are good for, but I usually like to focus on that one because hopefully
Yeah.
that makes sense and that's exciting because I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and also it's something that people can easily relate to and understand. So I think understand it going via this route would be the best way to understand the best use case of blockchain. Yeah.
Wait,
So since
yeah.
we are talking about smart contract and the trust that we are building, so we have been hearing a lot of scams, a lot of hacking that has been done on the smart contract front. So what are some of the best practices that one can follow being a Solidity developer or a blockend developer, we can say? Uh,
Yeah, you're a Twitter mongrel. I love it. Yeah, the blockend developer. We think we're
yeah,
funny as blockchain devs, don't we? Blockend devs, yeah. So what are best practices? Without going into like a long like
yeah,
technical hole, um, there's a ton of sources. You can literally Google Solidity best practices and you'll get a ton of links. Like Consensus has some great ones. Damn vulnerable DeFi is a great tool.
yeah,
Ethernaut is a great tool. These are all great tools to just like learn some of these best practices. They're really, I hate to say it, like it sounds like, kind of, but yeah, look, just do a quick Google search for Solidity best practices, and there are lists and lists and lists of all these best practices.
yeah.
Some of the best practices that I think are not as public as should be is using
Mm,
a static analysis tool like Slither, and I know that sound, when I say static analysis, a couple people's eyes glazed over. Just a tool to run that just like looks through your contracts and just does a quick sanity check saying, hey, like,
okay.
is there anything in here that's like easily, ridiculously exploitable? Like a quick static analysis. Obviously, doing more advanced testing, like symbolic execution is really
Mhm.
good too. But yeah, like just Google, best practices. You'll get a ton of resources, and then keep learning, keep growing. Right, like
Yeah,
it sounds like weird that that's my best practice, but yeah, keep learning, keep growing. There's so many resources coming out every day to teach you how to be a better and safer smart contract developer. So those are some of my
yeah,
tips. Yeah, I've made a whole bunch of content. You can check me out on Medium or dev.to or YouTube or whatever. And I have an insane video coming out very soon, which is going to have a ton of these as well. Free Code
yeah.
Camp video coming out very soon. I made one for Brownie. My JavaScript one is coming out soonish.
Oh,
No promises when,
okay.
but there will be a ton of good stuff in there too.
Yeah, and I think whoever is jumping into this Web3 rabbit hole, they would have, stumbled upon your 16-hour Solidity blockchain smart contract course. And that is, I think, one of the best video that one can look through when they are getting into this space.
I
So
hope
kudos
so.
to that. Kudos for to you for creating such great content, Patrick. So, like, what really motivates you, to make such great videos, and what's your mindset behind making all those videos in the first place?
Oh well, I'm flattered that you think you're great, or that you think they're great. That by itself is a compliment. Yeah, the motivating thing is part of it's I just really like doing it. It's a lot of fun for me. I say this a lot. Like I think that I'm one of the dumber engineers in this space. Believe it or not. The only reason that I know anything is because I make content and that content I use as my like reference. Like I'll make some content and then or I'll learn some concept, and if I don't write it down, 2 weeks later, gone. Completely forgot it. No idea. Like if I'll look back at my code that I wrote, a couple weeks ago, and I'll be like, I don't know what I was thinking. I have no idea
So
what I
we are
was doing.
not alone. We are not alone here. We know that Patrick also forgets stuff.
Yeah, yes, yeah, definitely him. Which is why I make so much content, and this is going to sound kind of silly. I make so much content, and then like I'll like be making a project. I'll refer back to my own videos just
Oh,
to be
I
like,
have done
how the
this.
heck, how the heck. So in like a weird way, I make them for myself, and I think like if I'm going to find this valuable, I know other people are going to find it valuable, so I might as well.
Yeah.
And it really ingrains like any concept in me. Like if I make a video on something, I like know that shit like in and out. If I don't make a video on it, it's going to be like loose or in my brain and I'm going to forget it. So I make it partially
Mm,
because to do that, to like really ingrain in my brain, to help other people. I'm so passionate about the space. I love this space, to help bring people in the space. And it's like a ton of fun for me. I get to be like, I've said this a lot. Like if I had to code, if all I did was code 24/7 every day, I would
Mhm.
lose my freaking mind. I would not like. I used to tell people like I hate being a software dev, but like coding for like 3 days straight and then taking 2 days to make a video is just a ton of fun for me. I get to be zany. I like being zany. I like being goofy sometimes. And I tell I tell a lot of people the reason I make videos is just an excuse to force people to listen to my bad jokes. Like if they want to get my solidity content, they have to like listen to my shitty jokes. So that's why I make videos.
Yeah, nice, nice. Glad to hear that. And I think, like, once you create content, like the reason that you have given that, once you start digging on something, you realize later that people who are jumping into the space might also feel that this is something they should know. And since you are researching so much about it, why not talk about it in front of them so that they will somehow get the benefit of it?
Yeah, exactly. And well, and that hits on like another point. Like we as a space, if we want to see adoption, and like I learned something and it took me a long time to learn it, somebody else is going to run into that same thing. And if we want more people to get into this space faster and easier, if I knowledge hoard that, it doesn't help anybody, right? And
Right.
it's one of the things that really upset me actually in the traditional finance world, in like the fintech world, where it felt like everyone was so like my algorithm, I'm gonna like hoard my stuff, and everyone was so like protective of their IP, and it's
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, I understand that, but it's frustrating because especially like our community, blockchain, smart contracts, we're just in this point where we're just trying to get as many people excited as possible. And if we hoard that knowledge, if we hoard that information, in the long tail, it's gonna do us a huge disservice, right? Because nobody's gonna be able to join easily.
Right.
It's gonna take years for someone to get up to speed, as opposed to if we just take what we know, we put it into like a digestible format, stick it on the internet for people to Google search, and boom, now we can onboard people substantially
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, and already like there is a lot of plenty of content that we can find regarding Web 2 developing, like developing on Web 2. But on Web 3, if you still want to search something specific, you can't be 100% sure that you will get it on the internet.
Yeah, and on that too, actually, that's to me, that's like the superpower right there. Like if you Google search something that's very specific, that somebody else would want to Google search, stick that question somewhere. Put it in Stack Exchange Ethereum, put it on Stack
Yeah.
Overflow, some other form. I don't care. Put it somewhere, because the next time you Google search it or somebody else Google searches it, you know, uh, we will help the community become more knowledgeable, and then maybe in the long run they'll help you out. So yeah, exactly. Like if you Google search, so that's the other secret sauce. If you Google something and it doesn't show up in the first page, stick it in a forum. Stick that exact question in a forum. In the beginning, you'll suck at asking questions, but you'll get better, right? In the beginning, you'll probably ask some questions that nobody will be able to answer because you didn't format them well, because they weren't very tailored. But you'll get better at asking questions, and then we as a community will get better, and you'll get answers faster, which will be great.
Yeah, sure, sure. And since we are talking about content and like how content can help people, so like there are a lot of people who have jumped into the space, and if we talk about the noise to knowledge ratio in this Web3 space, I think that there's a lot of noise. Like people are talking about the resources they can follow, but like the valuable content that they are learning, I think we are still lacking onto sharing that type of content. So what do you feel like how developer advocacy comes into play here, and how developer advocates can bring in more uh, like knowledge of this stuff, like how can they bring this knowledge to people, and how can they make people excited about it?
Yeah. So there's a couple questions. So the first one you were saying is like, hey, how can we get more people excited about it? And I think that comes with more creativity, and that's something I haven't been focusing on so much. But yeah, more creativity, and with giving the examples of like, hey, here's where blockchain can be so much better. Here's where DeFi can be so much better. Here's and a part of me thinks that like we just need to just literally get more information out there, because right now, like if you put your money in a bank account, like if you put your dollar bills, for example, or whatever your native currency is in a bank account, right, you're going to make 0.01 or 2%, right?
Yeah.
If you put your stable coins in a DeFi protocol, like Aave, for example, you're going to make 3 to 5%. So to me, that alone is like, holy shit. If I have like some cash lying around, where would it be better to sit? In a bank account or in a DeFi protocol that's going to, in a bank account that's going to earn me 0.01%, or a DeFi protocol that's going to earn me 3 to 5%. So right there, and this is where having like big economic opportunities is really good for the space. That right there gets people excited, right?
Hmm.
There's always going to be the people who they don't even need that. They just know about, screw the man, like, your, custodial assets and stuff, and privacy and all that stuff. And they're going to be excited about it. But then additionally, we can say, hey, like, your wealth can be protected a lot easier in DeFi as well. So I feel like it's just like getting that narrative out more. And so as developer advocates, I mean, our job is a little bit different, right? As developer advocates, our job is to teach developers how to, well, teach and excite developers, and build an amazing community. But so working with kind of community, and working with community managers and people who are good at telling that story, and having that narrative, and just getting it out to as many people as possible. And that's really it. And then I think, creating more content, more educational content around why this space is important, why this
Yeah.
space matters, and then how to do all the stuff that we do. That's going to be the key.
Yeah, but I think we are still far away from convincing at least my parents that you can invest in crypto. But I think it will take time.
Yeah. I mean, there's always, it's like, think back to like 20 years ago, or however, when did Facebook get, I mean, Facebook is in the toilet right now, but like when the internet started coming out, right? A lot of people were like, what is that weird
Yeah.
thing? What are you talking about? And now it's like, it's literally what we're on right now. It's what everyone who's listening, it's like the standard. It's just what you do. So I think there's always going to be a transition period, but um it'll come. And we just have to keep pushing and keep doing our thing, and it'll come. But yeah, like there's always gonna be a transition period.
Right. Right. Yeah. Agreed. Since this, like the title of this video, I don't want to deviate much from the title of this video, wherein I had promised the audience that we'll be asking question to Patrick about how to break into Web3. So yeah, Patrick, that's my next question to you. Like, you have created such great content on YouTube, on other platforms as well. So what roadmap or path would you suggest to people who want to become a Web3 developer or blockchain developer?
Yeah, I actually I made a video on this. So go to my YouTube channel and check out my video. I also wrote a blog on this. But basically the summary is, first, take a tutorial. First thing, take a tutorial, take a class. There's a lot of new stuff in this Web3 space. And even if you're like, like I don't want to be a dev, or maybe you're like, I've never been a dev, whatever, take a tutorial, take a coding tutorial. If you take my tutorial, great. Like, I got one in free code camp right now for Python. JavaScript one is coming out. I swear, like, I'm not doing anything for like the next forever until it's done. And it's like literally all I've been doing the past couple months. Take a tutorial, go through a tutorial. After you do a tutorial, after you learn the chops, I promise you, you are not going to feel ready to jump in to the next step, but you need to. Leave tutorial hell after your first one. Take the stuff that you learned and try to apply it yourself. You will learn substantially faster doing that, right? It's like, if people are, the analogy might be like, hey, like taking tutorials, like going to sports practice, going to basketball practice. That's great. You are going to get better. You are going to get stronger. But being in a game is a whole new world. Being in a game, doing that event is going to make you learn leaps and bounds quicker than if you only stay in, if you only stay in the gym and you only practice. So go take your knowledge and apply it. So say, hey, I've got this really kind of silly idea. I want to maybe like go make a decentralized Stack Overflow. I want to make a decentralized betting application. I want to make a decentralized, who cares? Just make something. And right now, there's an insane number of hackathons that are giving out stupid amounts of money. that you can use and you can utilize to be like, okay, I'm going to commit to this hackathon, and the Chainlink hackathon is going on right now. So speaking of hackathons, I'm going to commit to this hackathon. I'm going to make it my mission that at the end of this hackathon, I'm going to finish something. I don't care if it's terrible. I don't care if it's the worst thing ever. Have the confidence in yourself to say, I'm going to finish something. Doesn't matter what, I'm just going to finish something. And it's not about like the end result. It's about the journey. It's about the learning. You will learn so much stuff because that's where you're actually going to run into problems, and you're not going to have somebody holding your hand along the way, right? That's where you're going to really learn how to search, how to Google search, how to find the resources to do your thing. Because that it sounds kind of funny, but at the end of the day, it's not about how much you know. It's about knowing where to find the answers. It's not about knowing the right answers. It's about knowing where to find them. Because I promise, like half the time when I'm making stuff, I don't know. I don't remember anything, which is why I Google search everything all the time. I make content so I can Google search my own stuff. My own stuff will come up and be like, oh, that's right. That's how you do that.
Yeah.
So go decide to do something, and you'll grow so much more overcoming those challenges. And then the additional thing with that is once you do that, you'll have a project. You go stick it on your GitHub, your GitLab, your whatever. And now you have something like as you know, I've hired people before. I do look at people's GitHub. If someone's like, hey, like I'm super active in Web3, you know, I code all the time, I work with projects, I'm gonna go to your GitHub and I'm gonna call bullshit, right? I'm gonna be like, I don't see any commits here. You know, you might say like, oh, cool. Well, I do GitLab or something like that, which, you know, I'll go check out your GitLab then, or your Radical or whatever you're using, right?
Yeah.
So you'll build that portfolio for yourself as well. And the other amazing thing about Web3 is once you start doing that, there are so many opportunities. Like a lot of people will go, okay, I want an internship. I want to go do an internship, which is great. If you can find one, awesome. In Web3, most of the time, you're not going to find an internship. Instead of an internship, what's way better, and you're going to learn way more doing it anyways, is going to a grant program and doing a grant. Because everything is open source, because we're the collaborative community, there's so much just like almost like basically contract work you can do.
Yeah.
Go apply yourself to, you know, that, and that will build up a portfolio for you too, and you can make money, right? And so instead of like having an internship, you can go work on some of these grants. And like to me, that is way better experience than being an internship, anyways, because as an intern, you're gonna get stuck on some stupid projects that are going to be hard to learn from. Versus if you go work on these grants, you're going to get so much more value from the learning experiences. And then even if there's not a grant for the project that you want to work on, all this stuff is open source. You can go to like these GitHub repos. You can go to these code repositories. You can look at the issues. You can look at good first issues. You can say, hey, this is something I'd love to take a crack at. Can I work on this? And I've met a ton of people that way. I've hired people that way. So create, so take a tutorial, go apply yourself somewhere, and then really just jump into the space, right? So, I've seen people go that route. I've seen people go the route of starting to make a ton of content as well. And then even if you're like, oh, I don't want to become a content creator, great, who cares? Just make the content to like get noticed, right? And it'll help the space too. So creating content, doing grants, and then just start applying. You know, start applying to places. There's a lot of DAOs too that you don't even need to be like part of the team, and they'll just like pay you contracting work. And then it's kind of really wherever you want to go from there. Or if you're feeling really sprightly, you can just make your own protocol, because there is a ton of new ideas in the space left to be had. So that's my rant on getting to the space. Hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, it's really helpful. It's just that I think the most difficult part for someone who is just getting started is they'll take the tutorial, they'll be done with it, even if it's 16 hours, 20 hours. But then building something on your own takes courage at that point in time, and confidence in yourself that you can do it. Because
Oh my
people
gosh.
have been, people have taken part in hackathons, but at the end of the day, like after 2 or 3 days, they feel like, nah, this is not my thing. Can't really build it, because and they again go back to the same tutorial, do the same thing again, and they're left with nothing.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
If you don't apply what you learn, it's not going to be very useful. So on that note too, actually, imposter syndrome will always happen. Do your best to take that feeling of imposter syndrome and yeet it as far as you can, because we all were there. We all felt like imposters, and do not let that stop you. Because if you if you've like been to Remix, you're welcome. You are like where you need to be. You are a part of the community. So if you haven't been to Remix, go to Remix. And if you've been to Remix, if you have a MetaMask, if you like know what Solidity is, you're here, you're welcome here. Don't let that imposter syndrome stop you, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people like get really nervous and they go, I don't want to make waves, like I don't know if I belong here, like I don't feel valuable enough to feel like my question is even warranted, and they get
Yeah.
really nervous about that stuff. And one of the things that's tough is, and it's something that I really hope, tech as an industry just kind of works on, is sometimes people will ask questions, and I've seen this way too many times with Stack Overflow, and you'll get like this angry wave of comments, people being like, "This is a stupid comment." You'll get downvoted to infinity. Um, that's something that us as a community we need to fix. But until it's fixed, we like as a new engineer, you have to have a little resilience. You have to have a little bit of thick skin, and don't let that affect you. And the reason I say that, and it's very personal to me, I like almost quit computer science. Back in college, I made a Stack Overflow question, and like the comments were like, "This is a shit question." Like they didn't say like go kill yourself, but like it was like downvoted to affinity like almost immediately. And then I was like, okay, everyone in this industry is jerks, like this is awful, like and I almost quit. So don't let it hold you back. Don't let it, and it's hard to say just like, oh, just don't let it get to you. It's something that we as an industry are working on, but until it's fixed, don't let that slow you down. You're welcome here. We want you here. Go talk to the people who aren't jerks, because there's a lot of amazing people. There are a lot of amazing people in this industry.
Yeah, and initially, like from my personal experience, I had been stuck at few places, and like I was not really active on Twitter when I just started, and didn't know where to go to. So that could be a roadblock initially, but I think following right people, asking right questions, not right, but yeah, asking questions is really very important. Even if it's on Twitter or going to personally DMing people, I don't really bother, like I don't really mind messaging people that this is my question, can you answer it. Like I don't really expect that they would reply me like initially, because when I had this is the reality of Twitter, like when you have very less followers, no one is going to give you, you know that's the harsh reality. So
Unfortunately.
like I did not really felt bad when they didn't reply, because I got replies from some of the people and it really helped. So
Yeah.
that's the yeah.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. And unfortunately, normally right now, if people DM me questions, I'll usually point them to Stack Overflow. Uh, the other thing is I feel bad like answering people's questions that DM me, because most of the time I'll go, hey, instead of DMing me this, if you asked in the community, you probably would have
Yeah.
got an answer much quicker. We can crowdsource it. We can record this question so that the next person who has this question will find your question and have you to thank for asking it, and you to thank for like finding the solution. So I not so I'll just say like I most of the time I won't answer your question if you DM me, but it's because I think it's almost like I don't want to say greedy to DM me, but like we as a community, we will be better off if you ask in a
Right.
public forum. And that's where we do our constructive discourse, and that's where we answer questions so that we can have that public record that anybody else can follow along with.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree to that. Yeah. So like for someone who is new to the space, like this whole Web3 rabbit hole could be pretty overwhelming. So how do you suggest one can keep pace with whatever is going on in this really fast moving industry?
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to a couple of newsletters. I used to listen to a lot more podcasts. Like, there's some good newsletters, some good podcasts out there. It depends on where you are. If you're like beginner and you're just trying to figure this stuff out, Bankless is a great one. Unchained with Laura Shin is really good. Um, what's her name? Camila Rousseau. Defiant. Defiant is a good one.
Yeah.
Those are some good ones to kind of get started. But don't let like, being up to speed with like the newest and greatest like really get to you, because in the beginning, you're going to be much better off almost like ignoring like what's happening right now and just focusing on like building the fundamentals. You'll do much better building the fundamentals, and then once you're like more advanced or more intermediate to advanced, then you can start paying attention to like what's it happening. But in the beginning, like if you pay attention to like all the hacks and stuff, you're probably not going to get that much value. That's really only like much later once you get more advanced. But then once you get more advanced, like it is kind of good to be on Twitter to see, like what's happening. Twitter is kind of like the playground where people talk about hacks and they talk about, what's going on in the industry, which is great. I'm a big fan of Rect HQ. They're a they're a newsletter and they talk about different hacks. They break them down real simply, and usually in a comedic way. I love their like no nonsense approach to stuff. But like much later on, Rect HQ. This Week in Ethereum is amazing. It's an amazing newsletter. There's some other Open Zeppelin blogs, Vitalik's blogs, Trail of Bits blogs. There's a lot of blogs that are pretty good, and then just kind of pick whatever you like the best.
Yeah. So we are also now talking about the stuff for beginners. So a lot of people install MetaMask and then their account get compromised. I was one of them.
I'm so sorry. Oh my
So,
goodness.
what advice or what precautions would you suggest to people in order to prevent that wallet compromise? I wanted to hear from you. I know I have taken that pledge from Twitter from your tweet.
Excellent.
But yeah, just for the audience.
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you too, like thank you for posting that. I think there's a lot of people, and I know people who have gotten their accounts hacked, and for fear of looking stupid, they didn't post about it. And
Right.
I think that as a community does us a huge disservice not posting that, because you not posting it makes it like not a thing, right? And if like everyone's getting hacked and like nobody's talking about it, we're never going to be able to know it's an issue, and we're not going to be able to fix it. So thank you for posting that, and thank you for having the confidence to be like, hey, my MetaMask got compromised. Because then it creates this conversation. Okay, how do we prevent that from happening?
Exactly.
And literally after you posted that, I'm actually going back and I'm editing a portion of my free code camp video to make it more like, hey, like don't do this, or do this because it's an issue, right? Most getting into the space, there's a lot of stuff where tutorials are like just trying to get you up to speed really quickly, and they don't explain kind of the security implications of what you're doing, which can be really scary. So yeah, for those of you watching, .env files, if you push them to GitHub, you are compromised. And let me repeat that a little bit more potently. If your private key shows up anywhere on the website, anywhere on the internet, even if it's for like a millisecond, it's compromised. If you push something to GitHub and you quickly like delete your GitHub and like destroy everything, it doesn't matter. Move all of your funds out of your account ASAP. And I don't say that to like scare you, right? I say that to say like private keys are literally the password to your fortune. If your private key or your mnemonic phrase, your secret phrase, that's that 12 or 24 little word thing in your MetaMask or whatever wallet you have, if somebody else sees that, or if somebody else has the opportunity to see that, it's compromised. It's gone. Forget it. It's gone. Just move on with yourself. So to help prevent that, one of the things I always tell developers is never put a private key with actual money in a .env file. Having a .git ignore, and now we're getting a little technical, having a .git ignore in your project is really good. And that will help prevent you push it up. But we're human beings make mistakes. So it's just better if you just don't even put the private key in your .env. Now, if you want to put your private key in your .env and you're really good with your .git ignores, great. I recommend, if you're not great with encryption tools, what you can actually do is you can put your environment variables in your like terminal through your command line, and then delete your command line history just in case somebody hacks into your computer. So, so my advice is, for going through those tutorials that say like, hey, put your put your private key in your .env file, only use a private key that has no real money in it. So I do use .env files, but it's for like I have a ton of burner wallets at this point, and it's always a burner wallet that I'm using in my .env file. So always never put a private key that has real money like in in a .env file. Actually, especially if you're using something like VS Code with like GitHub Copilot, because GitHub Copilot can actually read your files. So if you put a private key with real money, it's gonna get a Microsoft is gonna have your private key. So yeah, so that's my advice. If you can use an encrypting tool, that's much better. So Brownie has like Brownie's encryption tool is probably my favorite, and it's something I do talk about in the free code camp video. Hardhat is working on one. I've made an issue on their GitHub. They've told me they're working on a better one. You can encrypt your stuff right through ethers, and actually my free code camp tutorial coming up, I do talk about that. So encryption tools are kind of the best way to do it. There is a little bit more of a learning curve to do the encryption tools, but the easiest way is I'll say like, hey, just put your environment variables in your terminal, in your history, in your shell, and then delete your shell's history right afterwards. I know that was a lot of information, but basically don't put a private key with any real money or mnemonic or a seed phrase in a .env file. And if you accidentally push it to GitHub, or if you accidentally show it to the webs or show it to the world, show it to the internet, even if for a split second, consider it compromised.
Yeah. Though I'm still not aware how my account got compromised, because as far as I remember, like I did not commit it on GitHub, though I had put it in my env file, but uh, I'm still not able to figure it out. But yeah, I have taken my steps, because I got a lot of good comments on that particular post. People were suggesting ways how can I prevent um, my wallet to get compromised. And then after getting a lot of comments from people that their account also got compromised, I was like, oh, there is a need of
Yes.
us telling people that they need to take care of it.
Yeah. And I'm hoping, from your tweet, I'm hoping more people make content, and it's like on my to-do list, once I finish my free code camp video, to make some more content around like, not even like, because I'm not a security expert, just I'm a smart contract expert, just like real basic like 101, like here's how you can make it a little bit harder to get wrecked. And yeah, one of them is not putting a private key with real money in a .env file.
Yeah, maybe I can get a stab at it and make a video.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, if you make a video or you put a blog, like let me know. I'm off Twitter for the next couple weeks until I finish my free code camp video, but when
Yeah,
I'm back,
got to know.
we'll happily promote it.
Sure, sure. So, Patrick, I still have a lot of questions, but since we are running out of time, it's one of the last questions that I have for you. So, since people look forward to you in this community, in this Web3 community, so
Oh, I'm
how
so flattered.
responsible?
Wow.
So, it would be some sort of responsibility that, like, do you really feel that responsibility over your shoulder of whatever you're talking about on your social media handles? Like, do you think twice before putting something?
A part of me is wondering if you're referring to like a tweet that I posted something really stupid recently, and you're like, you think
No,
twice,
no,
you
no,
big
no.
dummy. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I actually had this conversation with Nader recently about like Nader and Austin Griffith. So Nader Davitt and Austin
Yeah,
Griffith. We were talking about like like how sometimes we'll just rip things, we'll just let it rip, and sometimes it's not said as eloquently as it could be. um uh so the answer, like sometimes I'm like, all right, like maybe I shouldn't say that. A big one for me actually was a lot of people reached out to me about this, and now I've kind of turned it down. I used to royally shit on JavaScript. I used to like I like did I was not nice to JavaScript. I did not like that language. Um, and after a while, like I got some comments and a couple people reached out and they were like, hey, like it's really frustrating, when I see your comments about hitting JavaScript because, I'm a JavaScript dev, or it's a turnoff for new engineers in the space who are learning JavaScript and they just poured all their heart and soul trying to learn JavaScript. And that really spoke to me. And I was like, oh, because I definitely don't want to be discouraging people from learning our language, right? I
Yeah.
was doing it I was doing it more to like kind of be, play fun and more jokingly.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, the other thing is it is an essential tool for the front end, right? Like they're like,
Right.
and I'm even making like a JavaScript tutorial. So that is something that I turned down, was like the joking and kicking JavaScript. So that's something I don't do some more. So that is something that I think about. So yeah, so definitely, because I don't want to discourage anybody. And so like if I'm making a joke that, that's discouraging people or it's hurting people, I don't want to do that. So I did appreciate the people who reached out to me and was like, hey, like, it really hurts when you say stuff like that. So to answer your question, yes, I do. But
Okay.
if you read some of my tweets, it'll look like no, he doesn't. So yeah, I definitely think about, but and not to say that I never shit on technologies, because there are a bunch of technologies out there that I'm like, why does this exist? This is a stupid scam. And I do think it's important for us as a community to also call out
True.
bad things that happen, and bad technologies and people that are being dishonest. Your MetaMask getting compromised, a perfect example, right? That was inherently
Right.
a negative event, and you called it out, and you were, you owned it, and that was great. And having that honesty, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
So even though I do try to like not, I do think about stuff, I also want to try to keep things as unfiltered as possible, because I think that is how we can have more constructive, more honest conversations
Right.
and make us as a community better. So yes, I do think about it, but I try to be as unfiltered as possible.
Yeah, but I think the different type of Twitter tweets that you put, I think people really enjoy. I personally enjoy them because I can relate to them. Though I did not relate to that you are not a cardio person, because I am.
Oh, I yeah, I'm not a cardio person. Although, see, like the funny thing is, I say I'm not a cardio person, but then like the workout I just did was like a 20-minute cardio workout. So maybe I'm just a hypocrite. I don't know. We got to
Yeah.
get you lifting. We got to get you lifting heavy. We got to be a bunch of yoked Solidity devs. We got to all be massive. That's the goal. I'm playing. I'm
Right.
playing.
Right. Yeah, so I really, really love the energy that you bring to the table, Patrick. Like, I really love your videos, and I really enjoyed this conversation that I just had with you. Um,
Likewise.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to some more conversation like this in future, because as more and more people will reach out and ask more questions, I think it's really very important for people like you to answer those questions, people like us to answer those questions.
Yes,
In
I was
fact,
literally about to correct you. I was like, "You're a DA with us too." Well, you're not DA, but you're dev, and I feel like all developers are secretly DAs, and vice
yeah.
versa. But yeah,
Yeah, maybe later in some conversation we can talk more about developer advocacy.
yeah,
Uh,
sure,
yeah.
cool. Well, yeah, thank you
So
so much for having me here. Yeah, this was a blast. You asked great questions, and thank you again for posting that tweet. I'm excited that you're in the Web3 space with us, and I'm excited that in a roundabout way we're on the same team. So.
yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for taking out time for this great conversation. See you in the next one, Patrick. Bye bye.
Bye, all.